Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us again. This is Western Landowners Alliance mini podcast series. Women in Ranching is here on location at Art of the Cowgirl, and we've had the great luck of snagging Becca Skinner for a conversation, which we're really excited about. So, Becca, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And let's just start off. We'd love to hear a little bit about your connection to this place and to the land, and what has the journey been to bring you to this point in your work and in your life?
Sure. Well, a 30,000 foot view of that question. My work, I'm a photographer and a writer, and I came to Bozeman by way of Wyoming prior to this, and then Colorado prior to that. And, you know, my work as a photographer started in adventure photography. So expeditions, kind of showing the extreme part of people's relationship to land and adventure and place. And for the past few years, it's really shifted for me when I became a farmer and a permaculture food forest. When I met my husband, he already had that going, and I sort of dropped into that situation and had to learn really quickly what it means to grow food and have a relationship with land on such an intimate level where it's a part of my daily life. So now most of my work is focused on private land conservation in conjunction with public land conservation, tying the two together, trying to figure out how we can best conserve biodiversity, soil, all of those really great things. So it's really shifted from the beginning for me.
So that also means that your work is likely targeting a different audience, or is that incorrect? I mean, are people who are coming out to these lands seeking adventure and thrill and connection to the wild elements, are you also finding that they're engaged around the story of food, or has it been a different audience for you?
I think a little bit of both. I think there are people who maybe started on the adventure side with me who have gravitated more into recognizing that if we're not doing things to protect the places that we're exploring or working, that there's an issue. The two need to go hand in hand. But I think that also through kind of migrating down this path, I've collected a whole new group of people, which I feel really grateful for because they're awesome. People who care about food and who want to talk about food or where food comes from, whether that's textile or fiber or food or beef, meat.
So as you have transitioned to a more boots on the ground, day-to-day caretaking, do you still find energy and time and enthusiasm for playing on the land, or has that play just shifted the form that it's taken?
That's a great question. I struggle with the balance, as I'm sure anyone who has the responsibility of life, raising life in their hands, struggles with, of time mostly. And so I feel like it's less that I have less energy, but more like I have less time to go further. And I'm constantly weighing the options of staying because I know there's stuff that always needs to get done, and knowing that one feeds the other. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like I'm constantly working towards that balance.
And what do you feel like drives your creative energy?
I think a mix of creativity is required for me. The working with the land, watching a seed grow into its full mature plant, and then bringing that into the kitchen, that is so inspiring for me on a photo level. And then I think if I just take my camera around the food forest, I'm seeing things in kind of a different light. I'm able to get really close and maybe highlight something that I would have overlooked if I was just weeding. So I think the two really complement each other, but I really need a mix of multiple creative outlets to keep myself not burnt out.
Yeah. So what opportunities do you see? You know, I think COVID particularly has put, here in Montana, we had a lot of new people coming in, and then COVID happened, and there has been this huge influx of new residents and people owning land. What encouragement would you give to place-based storytellers? What is the opportunity in that? And what challenges might you see?
Yeah, I mean, place-based storytellers, I think, have an opportunity to... I see being a photographer or a storyteller as kind of a bridge between multiple worlds. And so being able to translate maybe the struggles or the challenges or the wins from someone else's life into a different audience that delivers information in a really aesthetically pleasing way. I think that we as storytellers, with this influx of people, can be really helpful in just making those connections of showing examples of maybe landowners who have been really great stewards, and how, showing an example of how they've done that to people who are moving and who might be interested in that.
What gives you hope today as you continue doing this important work? What is inspiring you, and what is driving your energy and your commitment forward?
What's driving my commitment forward? You know, I think every time I talk about grass banks, I get like a little too excited. I think community solutions to national problems are just make me jump over the moon. I'm so excited about that idea of community solutions to an issue. So any way that I can continue to work and use my lens or my writing to help further along those ideas, to lend a creative hand into coming up with a solution in any way that I can, that makes me really excited, as well as just seeing community boots on the ground, people coming together for common work.
So what kind of people do you see leading in this space of solutions-driven, community-focused outcomes around issues that may be national or even global? Who are you seeing come to the forefront in these conversations, and what do you think they have that's giving them that ability? Because it's a lot to hold sometimes when you have a complex problem that seems maybe there's so many challenges and there's so many external pressures. People who are doing that type of work and sitting in the midst of that, who are they? Are you finding them and connecting with them? And do you have a sense of what their special juju is that keeps them from just going crazy and throwing their hands up in the air?
Yeah, you know, I think it's a lot of women, but it's definitely not all women. And my background is not in agriculture. And so I think when I first started to explore this space, I was like, here are these few people who are like the exception to the rest of the agriculture world. And then when I met those people and started talking to them, it was like all of these doors started swinging open to big groups of people who were trying to solve these problems and thinking creatively on how to do that. So I find the most inspiring and common thing is people who have a lot of passion, who've maybe hit a dead-end road somewhere and who've sat with it and found other people who are in the same position and are, but the common line is passion. I think you can't do it without a deep passion, curiosity, knowing that there's something better there's a better system.
Right.
Yeah.
I have a quote that's really been inspiring me this last year, and it was by Parker Palmer, and he says, "Hope is holding a creative tension between what is and what should and could be, and every day moving a little bit closer."
I love that. That idea of tension is so interesting because I think that inevitably exists in a problem, but thinking about tension as a way to solve problems, or like tension isn't necessarily negative, is really encouraging.
Well, Becca, I have one final question for you, and thank you for putting up. We have airplanes going by and all sorts of visitors showing up for Art of the Cowgirl today. So thank you, listeners, for sticking with us through this. But our final question, at Western Landowners Alliance, we focus a lot on stewardship and this idea of stewardship with vision. And I would love to hear from you. What does the word stewardship mean to you? How do you define that, and how do you live that? Do you connect with it? Do you not? What do you think about that word?
I think that's I feel like I could answer in a really long format, but I will restrain myself. I think it's being a good steward is seeing yourself as part of the whole mix instead of someone who is authoritative or believes that they can dictate where it goes. I think there's the image, I'm such a visual person, the image that's coming to mind is like palms open instead of palms away. That's an invitation of the natural world and how to work with it, not against it. And like, I think of a few weeks ago, we were trying to plant in the food forest, trying to plant some corn, and the soil was really wet. And I knew we were running out of time in this very short season to plant, and we were already running late, and I wanted to do it anyways. And my husband reminded me, like, this is not up to us. The soil is wet, and we know we should not plant when the soil can be compressed. So we need to wait. So I think even small reminders like that it's not up to us. We're trying to work with the land. Is just one example of stewardship to me.
Well, that's beautiful. I love that. And I love that you have a partner who reminds you of those things.
Yeah. Me too. I'm grateful for that too. Yeah.
Well, Becca, thank you so much for sitting down with us today. And thanks to all of you listeners. We'll have some more mini podcasts coming from Art of the Cowgirl. So be sure to tune in. Thanks.